So I guess we'll start the show off, Jake, the way we always start the show off. And that is with breaking news out of this Pac-12 situation. You know, we're just sitting here today doing the show.
Right.
Getting ready for the show, talking to some folks, talking to some other folks, and the phone rings. And it's a big-time dude at Utah. Right? You're caught off guard. You're just kind of, chillaxing.
Right.
And it's a big-time dude at Utah.
I am your father.
And admittedly, we have been churning our contacts to try and get in touch with some people at Utah.
Yeah.
To talk about the relationship that the university has with the Pac-12 and with the Big 12. And the phone rang today, and it was somebody at the top of the food chain. And I think we got a very good understanding of what has happened between Utah and the Big 12. And I don't think there's any question that the number one thing that came out of this conversation today was, without a doubt, Jake, the University of Utah and the Big 12 have had not only talks, but deep and extensive talks where they talked about what would it look like to have Utah join the Big 12. What were the parameters of a deal like that? What did it mean to Utah? What would it mean for the Big 12? And one of the interesting parts of this conversation that I want to get to is we were told by our source today at Utah that there was just something amiss. It didn't feel good. There was just, the dots didn't connect during their conversations and the efforts to bring Utah to the Big 12. There was just something missing there, Jake. I feel like that's my number one takeaway from that conversation today.
Yeah, I think that first takeaway of they have had, substantive talks. Like, they have been in communication, talking about possibilities and what have you. And I think the big thing is again, that Utah prioritizes educational fit and educational, standards, if you will. Not to say the Big 12 doesn't, but I just think that, the mindset is a little bit different in the two conferences. And I do think that, the conversation that we've been having on the show the last couple of weeks, about this whole concept of educational dollars versus football or slash athletic dollars, and, what's the priority, and is Utah slash the Pac-12 gonna close that gap a little bit with the Big 12? This conversation that we were given the opportunity to have today, made it very clear that, education is first. And I don't have an issue with that. To be clear, I don't have an issue with it. I just think that right now, with everything that's gone on with this TV deal, you're essentially risking being in a position where, hey, if a deal doesn't get done, or if the deal does get done and it's really crappy, and the conference really struggles, and let's say the conference burns to the ground, let's say, or the conference dissolves, or whatever that would look like, you're putting yourself in a situation where you're going to have to either go back to the Big 12, or you're going to have to go to a conference in the Mountain West, which you would never do. So that was my big thing, is like, hey, this whole situation, by prioritizing education as much as you do, I feel like it's kind of putting you between a rock and a hard place. So my feeling would be that at some point, Utah and different schools in the Pac-12 are going to have to come to the middle a little bit on prioritizing things.
Well, I also think this education conversation is very interesting in that the way that our source talked about education, saying that the University of Utah values a well-rounded academic universe. And I think it's very clear, and in probing after that quote, it's very clear that Utah believes that all rising tides raises all ships in the Pac-12 financially. And it very much is clear that Utah does not believe that about the Big 12. And the other thing that I think is really interesting is this source also confirmed for us that the Pac-12 and ESPN have a fractured relationship. And I think that's the other part of this conversation is the Pac-12 and ESPN, I don't know how they get this done. Because as it was described to us today, there was almost a falling out between the Pac-12 and ESPN, and they are nowhere. And it was told directly to us that the Pac-12 did in fact go back out to market looking for new conversations. It's not that the Pac-12 went back to ESPN to get more money. The Pac-12 went out and started talking to new folks like NBC Universal, we reported exclusively here on the show last week. talking to the Discovery networks, talking to Ion or whoever you want to point to. We know these conversations have happened, some deeper, some more fruitful, some not fruitful at all. But the bottom line is the Pac-12 does not feel close to a TV deal, as was reported by Andrew Marchand in the New York Post last week. It does not seem like this is going to come quickly. It does not seem like the Pac-12 has any traction. And I think one of the more interesting parts of that is when we talked to this person at Utah today that called us, we said, like, hey, what is it going to take to get you to move off your spot on the Big 12? And our source at Utah went right back to, hey, we have systematic differences with the Big 12, right? We just do business in a different way. And the communications were not uncomfortable. They were cordial. This person at Utah today raved about Brett Yormark, raved about Tom Hommel, went out of their way to make sure that we knew that they felt like Utah and BYU have a great working relationship, a great academic relationship, and a great sports relationship. And this is simply a matter of looking for the right fit for the University of Utah, which is what you would expect. But the funny thing is, when people call you, you can generally tell, especially, and I'm not trying to be grandiose about it or over descriptive. The person that we're talking to, what's the right way to say it? Draws a lot of water at Utah.
Yeah.
Like, it was a shocking phone call today. And I said to this person, excuse me, but it doesn't seem like you're being genuine. It seems like you're spinning. To which he said to me, hey, let me just put it as bluntly as I can put it. Something's missing in the conversations that we had with the Big 12. Something was missing.
Facts.
Can't put a finger on it. There's not like it's a money thing. It's it's a rev share thing. Something was just missing.
Right.
And they specifically, I was able to confirm, as we reported earlier, that Utah essentially told the Big 12, hey, we like what you guys are doing. We wish you the best, but right now this just is not a fit for us. And when I pressed and said, well, what's it going to take? I even jokingly said, you're going to watch the Pac-12 burn to the ground. And this person essentially said, yeah, that's what it's going to take. We believe in the group that we have. The other 9 universities, the 10 of us that are left, are all very much philosophically aligned, which again goes back to exactly what I was telling you 2 weeks ago. Utah has no desire to leave the Pac-12. None whatsoever. I got the feeling that, and I don't know, you heard the conversation as well.
Yeah.
I got the feeling conversations with Utah and the Big 12 were simply about due diligence. Mm-hmm. It was simply a matter of, hey, let's see what this would look like, and if we need it, great. But we're not interested.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect way to describe it. I mean, it definitely was not a situation where Utah was expeditiously looking to have the conversation, or
That's
was
right.
looking to, was enthusiastic or excited or really looking to get in.
Enthusiasms.
Yeah, like it just wasn't. It's not. Utah's not in a place where they want to leave the Pac-12. What my guy just said. I mean that's the best way you can say it. And so the other side of that though is that when you're seeing Brett Yormark in the Big 12, in the Gonzaga angle and the Four Corner School angle and these different angles that are at play, definitely in my opinion, I think you have a responsibility. And I think the only thing that I would say about what we were told today is I wish that. I wish Utah, generally speaking, in the big picture, just was more, aggressive with these conversations, because ultimately, if we're really honest, the paradigm can shift just like that in a moment's notice. I mean, tomorrow, and I'm not trying to exaggerate, tomorrow, you could wake up and be told, hey, like, there's just not a TV deal to be put together. There's just not a fit. There's not, whatever the case may be. If that day shows up anytime soon, you're in big trouble here. And I understand why, our source is saying, hey, the conference is going to have to burn to the ground, and then we would consider it. I get it, because that's the mindset they're in of, hey, we love the Pac-12. We love our quote, educational, universe. Like, we love our fit. We love our situation as far as our other member institutions are concerned. But what I wish, and my big takeaway was, hey, that's great. I have no issue that you have a great relationship with all these schools and that you would want to be in the same conferences in educational power in Stanford or Cal or, any of these other institutions. That's not really even the issue. To me, the core issue still remains that not that they prioritize education, but more that they seemingly are okay with the concept of the conference burning to the ground before they would hit the eject button. And that, to me, is uncomfortable. I don't like that strategy.
I think it's very uncomfortable.
I think it's risky. I think it puts you in a really just an unstable position. I mean, you're basically,
you don't control your destiny.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically saying, hey, like we're ride or die with the Pac-12, and if it dies, then we'll cross that bridge. I mean, if it was me, my opinion is that I would have a handshake deal of some variety. I mean, an understanding of, okay, yeah, if our conference burns to the ground, what's it going to look like? I mean, I at least got to know that.
But the other thing I thought was interesting was that we were also told that Utah has had no conversations with the Big Ten, that they have not spoken at all, that there has not been outreach from either side, that they have been fully committed to the Pac-12, and that the only reason they spoke to the Big 12 is because back-channel conversations began and were thrown at them. People were reaching out to them. Mm-hmm. And as we reported, Brett Yormark initially was not making contact with these member institutions in the Pac-12, which brought up one of the more interesting comments of the conversation, is that Pac-12 presidents were put off by the Big 12 seemingly trying to damage the Pac-12.
Yeah.
That it was off-putting to Pac-12 presidents. And this person we spoke to, who again, A, it's shocking on two levels. They called us out of the blue today. And B, this person is pretty high up the food chain. So when they tell us, hey, it's akin to a team that's already, that fired their manager going out to try and find another manager who's employed by another team. It's something you wouldn't do. Mm-hmm. And I think that was a very interesting example of it. Because I don't, see that that's what the Big 12's been doing in any way, shape, or form. My opinion is that I think the Big 12's doing what it has to do to thrive. And I also think it's very interesting that Utah is in a position where, I agree with you, Jake, I don't see that they have 1,000 other options. They right now are ride or die with the 9 remaining, including Utah, 10 remaining teams in the Pac-12. That's their position right now. And I would not anticipate that changing unless something catastrophic happens.
Yeah.
And I think this week, according to our source, they are supposed to get an update from from George Kliavkoff on his situation with the potential for a media deal.
Hey, guys.
There is supposed to be a conference-wide call for an update this week with George Kliavkoff, because it was also clear from that conversation, and I mean, this person refused to tell us this directly, but George Kliavkoff's on the hot seat. Mm-hmm. There is no doubt about that.
Well, how could he not be?
Yeah,
I mean,
he is on the hot seat.
And we've had that conversation numerous times, but I think the idea, just in concept, right? Like, think about this, right? And I'll make the point about the Big 12 in a second after we get through this, but like, think about what George Kliavkoff's path so far and what he has not done for the conference. You think about the idea that this guy came in and is a self-admitted underdog, surprise hire, like doesn't have an amazing track record of being a commissioner or being super successful in this role. Highly educated, right? Like highly educated business guy, but that doesn't mean you'd be a great commissioner in this world. And so the day George Kliavkoff gets hired, he says, hey, yeah, I know that I was under the radar. I know that I'm not some, amazing candidate for this, but here's what I'm going to try and do. And he's done none of those things. And the TV deal is the best example. But I maintain, even still, the idea that the conference took overpayment from Comcast, that you don't have a TV deal, that you're somehow still struggling to put something together is incredible to me. So when I heard, our source say, without actually saying it, like, hey, George is, not exactly done great, or that, maybe George is on the hot seat. Like, it's not surprising. And it's especially not surprising when Brett Yormark is kicking the crap out of you repeatedly. Like, it's not surprising when George beat you to market. It's not surprising when he's got to deal with Jerry World and, circumcised.
Which also, by the way, has not gone unnoticed.
Yeah,
it's hard to look at this situation as the people involved in it and see everything and to understand everything. But when you're at the level that our source at Utah is, who called us today directly, it is really refreshing. And I think this is really important. To get direct answers to direct questions was really refreshing. The thing that should, if you're a Utah fan, the thing that should make you feel good about it is, I think it's very clear that Utah has a grasp on who they are and where they are. Now, where they want to go, I don't know. I think that's an interesting question, because I do think that there is this thing about being philosophically aligned really matters.
Yeah.
Really matters. And, the quote about systematic differences, I think, really stands out to me.
Well, I think Brett Yormark is someone who is kind of that guy, right? Like, you're either pro Brett Yormark and how he's going about doing business and, like, just how damn aggressive he's been. And I personally love it. I mean, I think it's been a revelation for the Big 12, without a doubt. But you can kind of see how Brett Yormark would be that guy where it's like, hey, he's not doing business like it's always been done. And
Correct.
So I think he's kind of one of those figures in the landscape.
Yep, I totally agree with you. Make sure you hit the like button, please. That really helps the channel grow. By the way, as we told you last week, we are zooming towards 15,000 subscribers on this show. And currently, right now, we're at 14,812.
Okay.
So just 88 away from 15,000. So if you are here and you are new to the show, please give us a thumbs up. Please hit the subscribe button. We would love to earn your business in perpetuity. Is the way we'd like to say that. Let's get some of your comments in here. Truck Stop Gumby is very happy to be first in today.
Okay, excellent.
Appreciate that. J-Rod says, time to get bucked up and start the week off right.
Let's go.
Amen to that. Bucked Up, the official energy drink of the Monty program.
Facts.
By the way, awesome.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Let's go.
Awesome end to the month of March. We had a massive month with Bucked Up on this show. In March, let's do it bigger and better than we did last month. So get off to a hot start. In the description below, there's a link to get 3 free samples and a free shaker cup. I tell you all the time, the best shaker cup in the business comes from our good friends at Bucked Up. I love it. It's got, and for those of you who have never seen it, let me show you now. It's got your shaft and balls attached to this lid. See, here's no. See, why? Get your mind out of the gutter, sir. Mm-hmm. I love that the blender ball and the lid are attached. They don't wind up on my floor or in my garbage disposal or in the bottom of my dishwasher. That's what you get from Bucked Up. Really smart products that work. I will tell you, their pre-workout is awesome. I'm a huge fan of their BCAAs. The racked BCAAs and grape are awesome. And oh, by the way, look what we got here. Thank you, Harmon's Grocery Store.
Yeah.
Yes. 2 for $5. Bucked Up Miami. Get the Miami. It's the best flavor.
Yeah. Let's go.
Cheers to you. Bucked Up, the official energy drink of the Monty Show. Hey, look at that. Car Wash Channel is back. He has rejoined.
Okay.
He has rejoined the membership. We like that.
Let's go. We're off to a hot start, baby.
I like it a lot.
Hour vibes.
If you want to become a member of the show, there's a link right there in the comments. Appreciate that. Josh Warr, W-A-R-R. Warr. How you doing, JW? Says, no stability in the Pac-12 regardless of TV deal. OU, Oregon, and UW, Washington, bolting the second they get the call. I wouldn't agree with that. I think that Washington, having talked to a lot of people, from what we understood today from our source at Utah, President Kase is absolutely leading the charge on this. And from what I understand, the presidents are unified in many things, including streaming, which was a big part of the conversation today. They don't want anything more than 25% streaming.
Right.
That much to me is very clear. I think the presidents in the Pac-12 want most of their content on linear TV, which means ESPN, ABC, CBS, NBC, wherever that might be.
Yeah.
And I can't say I blame them for that. I think it's a mistake. I think you have to get in. Streaming's going to happen on a wide scale, I would say, in the next 3 years. I think it will become normalized. It'll become the way we watch sports. We're watching baseball on stream right now in our studio, right? Like, that's just the way it's going to happen with YouTube TV. Why do you think DirecTV has the app that they have? Why do you think Comcast? Why do you think NBA? Why do you think the NFL? They're all going to stream. Why would college sports be different? It takes courage. So, Josh, I appreciate the $5 tip. I just happen to disagree with you. I think Oregon and Washington, when this TV deal comes in, that's when you should be scared. Because, by the way, I think the other thing this person at Utah told us today is the Arizona schools are going to bolt.
Yeah.
This person was pretty resolute that if the number comes in, and man, we've heard everything from 17 to 22 million a year per school. I'm telling you, this thing comes in under 25, you're going to lose probably 2 or 3 at the minimum.
Yeah.
At the minimum. I think that's what you're going to lose. Ryan Thomas says the Huntsmans are not cutting $1 million checks based on conference affiliation. No, they're not. I would agree with that. They're absolutely not. Tanner says research institutions. Tanner, good to see you. J.K. Marshall says Pluto TV looking at the Pac-12 broadcast deal. Well, listen, the Martians have always been, far ahead in technology.
Right.
Right. Bob Holsey says Utah, go independent. Man, that would be very difficult. Clint Moses says go Beavs. Dude, Reser Stadium looks pimp, by the way. The renovation at Reser, good luck going to Oregon State. Tim B., my guy, good to see you. Texas Tech is getting $4.4 billion endowments to add to its $1.7 million endowment, equals $6.1 billion, ranking Texas Tech 7th in public university endowments.
Yeah, dude.
I'm not saying it's not possible.
People getting money, bro.
I'm not saying it's not possible. Mr. Monkey says, do business in a different way, huh? Maybe. Cool Blue 71. Does the Monty Show still think the Pac-12 conference will survive this? I do. I think it'll be very different than you know it today. I'm telling you, the other thing you need to watch is this San Diego State game tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what it would mean for the Mountain West Conference, who I think is in a very unique position to thrive out of all of this. And President Navarez was on the show last week. She talked about it. But if San Diego State wins the national championship of college basketball, I think the Mountain West is going to get a huge boost out of that.
Yes.
And I think they are just, my feeling is the Mountain West is just sitting and waiting to see what happens with the Pac-12 TV deal.
Yeah, and if you didn't catch that interview last week, it's on the channel. I would highly encourage you to go and watch it.
You absolutely should. You absolutely should. Let's see. Skins rule. Is Utah really as, quote, well-rounded as Stanford? West Coast snobbery. I think there is some arrogance to that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that, just from an opinion standpoint, yeah, I think the Pac-12 schools are a little bit arrogant in their position. I do. I think that they value, being, institutions of higher learning more than you need to value that. I think it's great, right? Like, it's awesome that you're one of the best educational facilities in the land. I love that. But in parlance to a TV deal conversation, it just doesn't mean that much.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know what I mean? And it
what does it really mean at all?
Yeah, and it doesn't make them bad people or anything. I'm not trying to make it personal or anything. I just look again. I find myself almost having some deja vu here because I feel like after this conversation today, it really brought me back to this past summer when we started talking about this. Like, it's a situation where you got beat to market, and now you're kind of in a corner. And again, I will hate on George Kliavkoff as much as the next person will. The reality of the situation is you can bring in Jesus Christ if you want to, and he's not fixing the situation that they're in because you can't fix a lack of demand on your product. If you don't have that, you're not doing deals.
But I also think then you look at this story out of Oakland today where they're starting to be noise about equality in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 has no black head coaches in college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Zero. And I think that's an issue when let's not kid ourselves. The Pac-12 is not a great basketball conference.
No.
And you do have diversity in your football coaches. But the bottom line is you don't have a single black head coach in Pac-12 basketball. That's a problem.
It is.
And it just seems like all of this just continues to stack on top of itself. And that's why like Friday it was so exciting to hear about this MVC Universal conversation because that's really good news. And it just seems like good news out of the Pac-12 is so rare anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, am I making too much of it? Like,
I don't think you're making too much of it. I think that, what's really interesting is like for folks like us who are on this side of the phone today, like I look at the conversation we had and I look at the situation that they find themselves in and yeah, I don't think there's a lot of great news. I don't think that you're somehow in a reasonable position. I mean, this is incredibly unreasonable. This is incredibly dangerous. And again, I try to be careful about exaggerating or being too over the top or anything, but it's not unfair or exaggerating to say you're one conversation away from the conference melting down. Like if George Kliavkoff comes back with a TV deal that's less than $20 million, and I would say less than $25 million, dude, you're in trouble. You're talking about, big time brands leaving your conference. And yes, I mean, my opinion, I do think the Arizona schools want to bounce. Yes, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I
agree with that.
I think Oregon and Washington aren't necessarily married to the conference, but I don't think they're head over heels to leave. And I don't think, especially, that they're head over heels to leave for the Big 12.
But again, I think it's because George Kliavkoff is not a salesman.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's not somebody that you want evangelizing for you.
Don't fuck.
I mean, that might be a little too strong.
Yeah, I think it is.
Come on, that's a great drop.
It is.
Guys.
Don't fuck.
That's a great drop.
Yeah.
I think that might be a little too strong.
Yeah.
But I think George Kliavkoff has done a lot of damage to this conference. If we're being completely honest, the losses far outweigh the wins. Like you look at Brett Yormark, and again, I this is almost akin to playing BYU off of Utah, but every week it feels like the Big 12's making an announcement on some huge partnership, or you need to get the clouds from overhead.
But what did George do? And we're going to get to your comments in a sec. But what did George do? And I think this is crucial. George came in and said $50 million a year. We're going to be the best. Everything's hunky dory. We're going to be amazing. And he didn't get everybody to fall in line. He didn't get belief out of every institution.
He overpromised and underdelivered.
What did Brett Yormark do? He shut up. He traveled around the country, or around his conference, which is around the country. He talked to all the member institutions and their leadership. He got them all to be aligned. And then he just started making them money. And that's why the Big 12 is in a strong position right now. And that's why I say, like, I'm sure that there are avenues to getting a deal of some variety done, but getting a deal done is no longer good enough. You have to get a deal done that keeps all 10 schools in the conference. And my concern is I'm not sure that that's even possible. I don't know that it's possible for this conference to get $30 million a year. Legit. I don't know if it's possible.
I think it's possible. It's highly unlikely. By the way, Barfing Chickens back with the membership. Let's
go.
Barfing Chickens, good to see you. Appreciate you guys again. If you want to join the membership, $9.99 a month gets you into our exclusive Instagram members only group. Today, you would have known about this at about 11 o'clock this morning. I cut a video, put it in the group. There's been a great chat all afternoon about what some of the things mean, and we just have a great community on our Instagram members only list here on the Monty Show. $9.99 a month gets you into that. $1.99 a month, pretty much means that your comment's going to get read for sure. Today, we've already had over 1,000 comments, which we appreciate greatly. Hero75 gives us a $5 tip to say WWE and merging with UFC is bad news for the Pac-12. NBC Peacock broadcast WWE, and they will want more money now with UFC with them. Less money free for the Pac-12. Well, I would also remind you that, again, knowing Endeavor very well, Endeavor's a company that essentially bought the WWE, but Endeavor has a very strong deal for the UFC with ESPN, and that deal's not going to go anywhere. I think ESPN and UFC have made a great partnership. The question for WWE is, where does it live? Because currently anything that's not Monday night or WrestleMania does not do as well as the rest of its programming.
Yeah.
But, take this NBC Universal deal we talked about on Friday. In no way, shape, or form does WWE usurp or make it impossible to do business with the Pac-12. That's just not a fact.
Yeah.
You look at Notre Dame. Notre Dame has all kinds of opportunity to do a new deal with NBC that includes Pac-12 football, let's say, Pac-12 basketball, let's say. There's all kinds of deals. Somebody told me the other day that hey, Pac-12 could very well be looking at a basketball TV and a football TV deal in separate deals, which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, hell, Notre Dame made a living doing that.
Yeah.
Right? So your football only is an independent and all your other sports are in a conference. There are ways to I don't know, what's the way? Peel the banana? I don't want to talk about cats, but there are ways to get the deal done.
There are
many
ways
different
to
ways.
peel the layers of an onion back.
Thank you. There you go.
There are many ways to spread the butter across the toast.
Yeah. Cougar Tail says hubris. Utah too good for the Big 12. You need an extra O in that too. Excessive self-worth above others and above everything else. I don't believe that is in fact true about Utah in any way, shape, or form. I think, especially talking to people at the top of the food chain at Utah as we did today, quite clearly they have humility about them. Quite clearly, the other thing that's very clear is they have a ton of respect for BYU.
Yeah.
And talking about, BYU's independence and talking about the grind that was their independence, the University of Utah has no hubris towards BYU. None whatsoever. There's nothing wrong with shouting out your accomplishments. There's nothing wrong with being proud of what you've accomplished. In my opinion, the mistake will be if the Pac-12 melts down and loses 4 or 5 members, half of their membership, and you stay, that's a little bit too much because now you're damaging your property.
Yeah.
For my money, that's where the mistake would be,
Yeah.
Bryce Martin says, love your show. Glad to be a member. Much love from Austin, Texas. What's up, Bryce?
Hey, appreciate you,
Good
brother.
to see you. Thanks for being a member. Scammer trolling. Haha, nice way to use Wilner's story without saying his name. Did Wilner write a story today? I'm sure he did. I've not seen Wilner's story, so I don't know what he wrote.
Yeah.
J.K. Marshall, Pac-12 so racist.
Okay.
Racist. Okay. Check it out says UCLA and USC didn't make it to the Final Four. They did not. Mike Maples says Utah feels, quote unquote, in the club and won't leave unless forced. Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that.
And hey, I mean, again, that's their opinion. That's their standpoint.
And let's hope if you're a Utah fan, you don't get forced to do anything. Right? Let's hope. But again, I'll go back to this conversation about the Pac-12 and ESPN, because I think this comment today very much plays with what we heard on Friday. Because this person at Utah we spoke to today used the word fracture. There is a fracture in the relationship between ESPN and the Pac-12.
Mm-hmm.
And what did we tell you on Friday? And really, it started Thursday and Friday. As we've talked to more and more people in television, and we've talked to more of our sources around the country about this, what's very clear is that ESPN and the Pac-12 have dysfunction, and I don't think for 1 second that ESPN, and I want to be careful with this, I don't want to say ESPN is rooting for the Pac-12 to fail, because I don't believe they are. They would not shed a tear. They would not lose a minute of sleep. ESPN would not lose a minute of sleep if the Pac-12 failed. They would not, because they're in the driver's seat no matter what happens. They know that they will likely end up with that programming because the Pac-12 probably doesn't have another place to go. But you look at what would happen if let's say the Pac-12 disappears, disintegrates. Where's everybody going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my guess is probably at least 6 of the 10 would end up in the Big 12. I would think you could have 2 end up in the Mountain West, Washington State and Oregon State, let's say.
Yeah.
But the Four Corners school, I think certainly would end up in the Big 12.
Yeah.
I don't think there is any doubt, and it's just my opinion. I think Stanford, Cal, Oregon, and Washington, I think there's a real chance they would end up in the Big 10, although the Big 10 is going to have to find money for that. And I think Oregon State and Washington State could very well end up in the Mountain West. And then that still leaves schools like San Diego State and Gonzaga. And I think Gonzaga's into the Mountain West, or into the Big 12, excuse me. And I think San Diego State, we were told, has an invitation to join the Pac-12. I think all of those schools are available.
Yeah.
And I think ESPN knows it controls the Big 12's TV deal, especially in football.
Yeah.
There's no reason for them to stress or overpay for Pac-12 content. There's just no reason for it because they already are going to get it no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And my guess is that the fracture in this relationship is, as we told you, our sources at ESPN are telling us they're offering $9 million per school. They're offering $90 million a year to the Pac-12. That's it. And the Pac-12, I think, views that as somewhat as a slap in the face. But the reality is, why would ESPN pay more than that? Why would they pay more than that?
Yeah, they wouldn't.
There would be no
There's just
reason.
no demand for it. That's the problem.
There would be no reason for them to pay more than that because they're not getting it somewhere else.
Before we get to more comments, I am being DM'd by several people saying we missed some membership donations, apparently. Apparently there's some donating happening or something like that.
That very well could be.
Something crazy is going on.
I don't see anything crazy going on.
Okay.
I do not. Maury Alvarez gifted 5 memberships.
There you
Maury,
go.
thank you.
There you go.
Let's see. Members only. I don't see that. I think Maury Alvarez gifted some.
Yeah.
Okay, Maury, I appreciate that. Nothing crazy going on. Let's all settle down. The problem is, again, for those of you that are new to the show, when somebody gives a membership, I have to be looking at YouTube to see that. We use a streaming software that brings all of our comments into a comment hub, and that's where I read your comments from. YouTube's on a different screen that I have to go back and look at.
Yeah, all these screens.
So
and
all
stuff,
the screens and stuff.
You know, yeah.
Maury,
yeah, appreciate you, bro. Appreciate
thank you for donating memberships. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. As always, we love our community, and we very much appreciate that. Let's go. Big 12, Patrick Bourne says, Monty, who can settle down? We're all bucked up. Exactly right.
You know what I mean? Like, come on.
You know. I'm just saying, if you guys, bucked up is killing it. If you guys don't have bucked up in your life yet, you're missing it.
Yeah.
You're absolutely missing it. Travis Bird, Big Daddy Magic, a member of the program. BYU is the only football team that has tampons in the locker room.
Bro. Dude.
Bro.
Okay. Welcome to the Showgram.
So let me get this right. You are head over heels in love with Victor Wembanyama, who we're going to talk about at 4:30, coming up here in about 50 minutes.
So bricked up right now.
And now, where do you come from with this stuff? Daniel Whittlesey says, let's LFG. Maury, exactly right. Maury, we appreciate you giving memberships. And again, if you guys want to join the membership, I would highly encourage you to do so.
Yeah.
As you can tell, we have a really gifting, awesome community. So check yourselves out right there. Salty Drunk, what's up, my Australian friend? Everybody say hello to Salty Drunk in Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah.
How hard is it for Buddy, besides you, to have YouTube open? It is, he's 15 years old, man. He's a virgin. He's more worried about texting with the honey.
Waves in opposition.
That's what I'm saying. So Truck Stop Gumby says, put salty up there. He's very salty.
Yeah.
Daniel, a member of the show, do you think George K will still be with the Pac-12, the Pac-12 commissioner in 1/1/24? I do not. I don't, honestly.
Yeah,
I think that I think that we have heard repeatedly that his seat is quite warm. And I think the biggest issue is that there is I think not only have presidents in the Pac-12 lost faith in his ability to bring a deal in.
Yeah.
I think they don't trust him.
Well, how could you?
And I think that is the ingredients of a death sentence.
Yeah.
I don't have faith in you, and furthermore, I don't trust you.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. Cougar Tail. Jake and Monty, Utah is dealing with two vital issues. Oregon and Washington will leave soon, or at least threaten to and destabilize. Well, on that first issue, I don't know that you could destabilize this conference anymore unless somebody leaves.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's already unstable. Like,
yeah, and I
think
think
no way around that.
I think that our source at Utah today pretty much confirmed that the Arizona schools will be the first to leave. There's no doubt about that. No doubt. Two, media deal will be only enough to keep the Pac-12 alive short term. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
The problem is there's no such thing as a short-term deal. You're either going to sign the grant of rights or you're going to leave. There is no, hey, I'm just going to go year to year with you guys.
Yeah.
The biggest issue will not be getting a financial offer. The Pac-12's had multiple financial offers. The biggest deal is going to be to get 10 people to sign a grant of rights. Because the way this works, let's not forget about this. The TV deal is not with the schools, it's with the conference.
Right.
The schools sign a grant of rights, essentially a contract allowing the conference to sell their name, their image, their likeness, their broadcasts to those TV partners.
We built this program on NIL.
In exchange for money.
Right.
If a school does not sign that grant of rights, there is no TV deal. Just one school, there is no TV deal. Getting 10 to sign a deal for between $17 and $22 million,
With all due respect,
I think it's absolutely a pipe dream.
Yeah.
I think it's a pipe
I don't
dream.
think that anybody could do that.
Josh War says, I don't know, man. I feel that this solidarity for Oregon and Washington goes out the window if the big comes calling. Oh, okay. Well, you want to have that conversation. Fucking right. Like, I mean, the minute that the new commissioner of the Big Ten calls Oregon and Washington and says, hey, man, we got $50 million a year for you. Come on over. They're
All right,
gone.
where do I sign?
They're gone. They're gone. Washington and Oregon, if you said to them, hey, come join the conference, $50 million a piece for the first 3 years.
But I also think you got to remember that's a big step. I mean, it's not, we can sit here and characterize it as just a phone call, but ultimately, like, if you're Oregon and Washington, you're making a choice there. I just think that this whole conversation, when you hear presidents in the Pac-12, whether it's Robbins at Arizona or whoever you want to point to, when you hear these presidents talking about how, hey, like, we have time. I mean, we would have just started negotiating now if we hadn't gone to market early. And I disagree. I don't think you have a lot of time because the Big Ten commissioner thing is something that's impending on you.
When you say you have a lot of time, what that says is the value proposition is going to change. Well, we have time. We can wait them out. You can't wait them out. Because every single day, much to the commenter previously, UFC and WWE, you think they're just going to sit on their TV deals? Right? There's going to be negotiation that's going to happen there.
Yeah.
You look at how many people were at WrestleMania. You look at there's the NHL just got a deal. NBA deals coming up. If ESPN does a deal with the NBA before it does with the Pac-12, it's over.
Yeah.
I just don't know how else to characterize it. And I think the other deal is the Big Ten has to find new revenue to bring on new teams because their TV deal's done. They don't have a pro rata that says, hey, if you add another P5, we'll pay you. That doesn't exist. So they'd have to go to their TV people, which is what, from I understand, Kevin Warren was trying to accomplish before he took the job with the Bears. And my guess is if I were running the ship, I would go back to Fox. I'd go back to CBS. I'd go back to NBC. And I would say, hey, specifically NBC, hey, we're bringing in Oregon and Washington to support your Big Ten After Dark window.
Yeah.
Pay up. And I believe that NBC would kick in more money. And I think that that's something that you have to look at. If I'm the Big Ten, I'm also going out to market and I'm trying to get a stream deal.
But what if the Pac-12 had that mindset of like, hey, we're going to acknowledge and admit that we're not in a great place right now. How do you change the paradigm? How do you change the momentum in something? Well, you got to bring something from left field. You got to kind of create this shot in the dark. And I really feel like streaming could be that. The problem is that Coste at Washington, even Oregon a little bit, like they're not interested in let's say, as an example, a hypothetical, building a Pac-12 streaming network where you have to go to watch Pac-12 stuff. They're not interested in keeping it inside the conference and going out to the masses.
That's exactly right.
They don't want to do that. And so that's why I say, like, I don't mean to be doom and gloom, but the reality of the situation is that ESPN is out. You're not willing to keep it in-house. You're trying to work with NBC and figure out, hey, can we do something here? Like, the reality of the situation is you don't have a product that's in high demand. And
that's right.
When you don't have a product that's in high demand, you're going to have a lot of trouble getting people to pay over market for something that doesn't deliver on value.
By the way, Josh also says Miami is delicious.
Let's
Amen
go.
to that. Let's go.
go.
I need a drop when
Stay hard.
Can I get a drop when somebody says something nice?
What drop do you want?
Stay hard. I'm
Exactly right.
so bricked up right now.
That's fine too. Miami is delicious.
Yeah.
It's exactly right. Reister JP says Monty lost his virginity to a donut. You ain't wrong, man. Tell you what about a cougar tail. I love donuts. I would just we. I'm fat. Big Jack 512. What's up? Salty D into house. Needed that drop, Jake.
Hiscock.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly right. ADD Sales and Peruvian Food says, will George go down with the ship or get a golden parachute? He will be terminated. I think they will not give him a golden parachute. I don't. Wolf Toy Vixiabo.
Hugh Janus.
Yeah, Hugh Janus. What's up, Wolf? Where are you finding these drops, dude? I understand, but Boise State brings a large fan base that spans across all time zones. Boise State is not a Power 5 institution.
No.
They're not, in my opinion. Yeah. Plenty of toast for all the butter. Is it proper dating etiquette to break up with someone over Marco Polo, or is text messaging the only proper way to break up?
Waves in opposition.
Jake don't want to talk about that, man. How's that new girl? She ghosting you?
No, she ain't ghosting me. She's back now.
She's ghosting you.
No, she is not.
When's the last time you guys talked?
Today.
How come you didn't inform me of this?
Because I don't need to.
Yes, you do.
Hiscock.
I am your keeper. I'm not your keeper. What'd you guys talk about?
Anita, Dick, and Ming.
Did you really?
No, we didn't talk about that.
Did you Marco Polo?
No, we did not today. No, we did not Marco Polo today.
That's disappointing. Larry Pilgrim says, I live in Florida, dropped at $1,200 for tickets in a room for my Utes against the Gators. Casual with opinions and empty pockets. Go Utes.
You're casual.
Dude, they're going to win that game. That's my casual opinion.
They are.
Jacob DeLambo says, I lost my virginity to a Cheerio. Yeah, a donut. Hey, man, just because I wear a size 15 shoe don't mean nothing. Let me tell you that. All that means is, Jeremy Callahan says ghosted. Kenneth says, anyone with San Diego State last bowl game, it was like watching a Texas 5A football game. Wow.
Jackass.
Okay. Christopher Shannon says, Jake's a father.
Nah.
He just doesn't know about it. There's been no documentation. KM says, what about Arizona State? Are they committed? They are not.
No.
In my opinion.
No.
They are not committed.
Nope.
Nope,
they out.
It's weak, in my opinion, right? When you're not committed, and you haven't done the $10 membership at TriDayTrading.com, I just don't know what other level of commitment you would need to see. $10 for 30 days, TriDayTrading.com, $10 to save the rest of your life. Seriously, it'll change you. Day trading is unbelievable. I was looking at stocks today. I picked up 2 different stocks, 50 shares each. Super stoked about them. And that's the way that I think I got into day trading. And really, I made my first real day trading money on AMC and GameStop.
Yeah.
And I'm a market guy. I tell you that every time we talk about TriDay Trading. Go through the program. It's $10 for a 30-day membership. If you can't change your life in 30 days with TriDay Trading, maybe it's not for you. But what if you join this program and it makes you the money for that house you've always wanted?
Yeah.
The car you've always wanted. What if it makes you that money to take your family and be the ones at Disneyland on vacation? Instead of seeing all the pictures on social media, your family's the one at Disneyland. Think about it in those terms. The honeymoon you couldn't afford. You're tired of working for somebody else. You get out of bed today and you're like, damn it, it's Monday. I don't want to go and talk to Stan about my garbage route. TriDayTrading.com. If you hate your boss, TriDayTrading.com. If you dread your job, TriDayTrading.com. I'm telling you, give me $10 to change the rest of your life. Would you do it? If I said, if you give me a $10 bill, I will change the rest of your life.
How about
of course
that?
you would. Of course you would. Give it to TriDayTrading.com. They're going to donate it to charity. That's a tax write-off for you. They're going to give you exclusive coaching that means it's education. Look at step 3. Learn one-on-one with your own professional day trading coach to trade using our proprietary leading indicators. They're going to teach you how to day trade. Tax write-off. Number 4, upon successful completion, they're going to put as much as $100,000 into your account of their own money. And what does that mean? That means that if you make money trading their money, you get to keep 80% of the profit. $10 to change the rest of your life. Please go do it. It takes 20 seconds to register. Drop down, hit the Monty Show where you found out about it, please. Yeah. TriDayTrading.com right here on the Monty Show. Jeremy Callahan says, yes, screw Stan.
Yeah, what a douche.
Isn't it the worst when you hate your boss?
You're a douche.
It's crazy. Plenty of toast for all the butter says 1,000 a day would cover my daily toast intake.
Well,
hit it.
You know.
Facts.
Hit it. Big Jack says one-on-one. Yes, sir. That's what I love about it. J.K. Marshall says I snorted Pac-12 today.
Okay.
No, he said I shorted Pac. I misread that as an N instead of an H. I was going to say, if you chop that up and snort, I wouldn't recommend it. I shorted Pac-12 today. You probably should. Jeremy Callahan says crack 12.
That's right.
Okay. Salty Drunk says, I see Walker, Wilt Chamberlain, Kessler is out on a concussion protocol. Done for the year. Done for the year.
I think that's hip one.
Truck Stop Gumby says fat. Yes, I am.
Fat.
Alpha Kenny guy says, I wish I had $10. $10, man. $10. Let's see. DeLambo says, no, not Skywalker. First time Kessler run. Out for the year, concussion. Big Jack 512. PAC is what they use to cut the good stuff. See, they just cut in that
Right.
TV deals and they just kind of stick it in. The PAC,
Skok.
that probably came out wrong. Reister JP says Monty snorts powdered sugar. I don't snort really. I don't do that.
Don't think
Powdered
so.
sugar is actually kind of I'm not a sugar guy. I love sugar. I just don't eat it because it's terrible for you. MJ Bissett gives us $5 to say, is a grant of rights that only extends to 2028 possible? Well, you got to look at it this way. So their current TV contract, it's about 1 year and 2 months to go, right? So you kick off football season. They run typically July to July. So if you do a 4-year grant of rights, July 2024 to July 2028, I don't know what the gain is. And why would you do 4 instead of 3 or 5? Or the longer it is, I think the more difficult it's going to get people to commit. I truly do. And I think it doesn't, in my opinion, make a lot of sense to commit to this conference if it's under $30 million.
Well, and I think that what really doesn't make sense is doing a 3-year grant of rights, let's say, because in year 1.5, you're already going to be renegotiating another deal. Like, that's why you always see these are usually 5 or even 10-year agreements.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think it's fascinating. I truly do. I just, the time of the commitment doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Tanner Plummer On my mission, I had a companion who lost his virginity to a picture of his sister's best friend.
Holden Middick.
So wait, Tanner, who very pointedly introduced soaking to this show like 2 years ago.
Right.
You're telling me that strengthening your forearm to a picture of your sister's best friend is considered sexual activity enough to lose your virginity?
I'm so bricked up right now.
That doesn't seem right. It doesn't. Let's see. Talking with Raphael podcast. I'm watching you guys from Twitch for a bit. Oh, nice. What's up, Raphael?
Nice, dude.
That away. Appreciate you. Yes, we stream to Twitch every day.
Little simulcast action.
So if you're on Twitch, hook it up. If you're on YouTube, hook it up. Arlington Bears, good afternoon. Hey, should we be excited for the love fest between the NHL and Ryan Smith? How about a future NHL team and arena in Utah? I think, why wouldn't you just play it at the Delta Center?
Yeah.
I'm not fairly certain. They have capability to make ice there. We know that. They've played hockey games there. And the money that he's put into that building, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't do that, Arlington. Like, I think that is...
Well, and it's downtown Salt Lake. I mean, it's, with all due respect to, any other town in this valley, it's just not the same. Like, if you were to... Like, taking the Jazz away from Salt Lake would be one of the dumbest things Ryan Smith could do, in my opinion.
Yep, I totally agree. Make sure you guys hit the like button right now. That would be phenomenal. Big shout out to everybody whose first day is on the show. We've added 9 new members.
Let's go.
Appreciate that. So thank you for that. Let's see. A couple more. Big Jack 512 says Brigham was lots of people's daddy. Okay. Okay. Cougar Tail says Monty snorts bucked up Miami. You ain't wrong, man. I ain't telling you to get alternative with your ingestion.
Yeah.
But I am telling you that I would absolutely encourage you to use the bucked up Miami.